Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday morning, September the 5th. Well, we're closing in on the climatological peak of the Atlantic Basin tropical season, somewhere between, let's say, the September 10th and September 15th, or even the 20th. Somewhere in that middle 10-day period of September is the climatological peak of the Atlantic Basin tropical season. We've had a relatively quiet time over the last several weeks. No named storm after Ernesto became a named tropical storm on August 12th. And that time period without a newly named storm from 13th of August all the way to today really hasn't occurred in the Atlantic Basin since the 1960s. This is an unusually quiet time that we're going through right now. There are as many as 4 tropical waves right now in the Atlantic Basin. We'll kind of pinpoint those locations in a moment here. None of those are guaranteed to actually reach named tropical storm status, but I will say almost all of them have to be monitored because there is that possibility that they will develop over the next week to 10 days or so. But again, right now we're climbing towards the middle part of September, which is the climatological peak. This is one measure, September 10th, that's of named storms, of actual hurricanes, those tropical systems that attain hurricane status. It's a little bit later, maybe in the middle portion of September. So again, somewhere between the 10th and the 15th or so is the typical peak time. That means we have quite a bit of time left. The second half of September and certainly October can present some tropical storms or hurricanes in the Atlantic Basin. Well, here is indeed the latest actual map showing the locations of the 4 different tropical waves over the Atlantic Basin as depicted here by NOAA's National Hurricane Center. One is headed towards the Yucatan Peninsula and then into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. Certainly this one has a chance of becoming a named tropical storm in this part of the Gulf of Mexico, where the water is very, very warm for this particular time of the year. Here's another couple out here over the central and eastern Atlantic that will tend to meander around, or in this case move to the west-northwest over the next several days. And finally there's a system just off the east coast here that looks like it'll move farther away from the east coast, and it too has to be monitored here. But none of these is guaranteed to reach tropical storm status, which again is kind of an unusual event here happening in the Atlantic for this time of the year as we reach that climatological peak of the tropical season. So 4 different systems, and we'll certainly monitor these over the next several days. Well, let's get back to the continental U.S. and take a look at last night's 0Z run of the Canadian model. I want to first look at the 850 millibar temperature anomalies, and indeed there's another colder than normal air mass that will drop across the plains over the next day or two and then into the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. by the time we get to Sunday and Monday of early next week. Beautiful weather over the last few days in the northeastern states, in the Great Lakes, the Midwest, with comfortable temperatures and humidity levels. And again, we have this reinforcing shot of cool, dry, fall-like air that will push south and east over the next few days. Here it is as we begin the day here on Thursday, starting to show up on the maps as a below normal air mass here in the northern plains, southern part of Canada, the south central part of Canada. Relatively normal across much of the eastern U.S. this morning, and warmer than normal out across the western states. Now let's push forward here. There is a cold front right in this region right here. By the time we get to Friday morning, it's situated over the Great Lakes, and a widespread cooler than normal air mass dropping across the northern plains into the Great Lakes region on Friday, continues to drop to the south and east. By the time we get to Saturday, there will be a pretty strong cold front swinging from northwest to southeast through the mid-Atlantic regions, through the northeast U.S. on Saturday and Saturday evening. Cooler than normal air behind that frontal system. By the time we get to Sunday, it'll flood the mid-Atlantic region and the northeast U.S. Here is the forecast map for Sunday morning. Again, a widespread area below normal temperature. You have to go all the way out to the northern Rockies, interior section of the Pacific Northwest for temperatures to be well above normal. But this is another cool, dry, fall-like air mass into the Great Lakes and then the Midwest, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. by the time we get to the latter part of the weekend. Here we go all the way into Monday of next week. Still, the big news here weather-wise will be beautiful weather conditions across the northeastern states. It does get hot out across Montana and Washington and even along coastal sections of the west coast here. Now we'll move forward again in time here all the way out to Tuesday, and then finally by the middle of next week, widespread area of above normal temperatures in the northern plains all the way to the western Great Lakes, that same area that will experience cooler than normal conditions over the next few days or so. Let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps, again using the 0Z Canadian model run. Here's a system well off the North Carolina coastline that is tropical in nature. Does not look like it'll move west towards the east coast, but rather in a north-northeast direction here. Another kind of a tropical wave out across the northwestern Gulf of Mexico as we begin the day here on Thursday. Let's move forward in time, and again, here is by tomorrow morning, that system pushes a little bit to the north and east, intensifies a little bit, has a chance of becoming a named tropical system, does not have much of a chance of reaching the east coast here, not the mid-Atlantic east coast as far as that goes here. But this is some tropical moisture throughout the northern Gulf region here on Friday morning. And here we go. Now this is an intensifying system here, and it's something that we'll have to monitor. Again, it could have an impact certainly on Nova Scotia and even the eastern part of Maine here. Right there in this particular forecast loop, we have what very well could be a named tropical storm at some point, if not extratropical at this particular point in time, which is early this upcoming weekend, and it could produce some significant rain down East Maine and eastern part of Maine. So it's something to monitor. At the same time, here is that cold frontal system on Saturday morning crossing the Great Lakes region into the Mid-Atlantic region. And certainly will be a line of showers, maybe embedded isolated thunderstorms along that cold frontal system as it moves from northwest to southeast. Then we'll go ahead a little bit farther in time. Here is that front. Another system may be tropical in nature along the Carolina coastline, but it'll kind of get swept away by this advancing cold frontal system. Here we are by Sunday morning. That cold front is at this particular time off the coast. Beautiful air mass over the Great Lakes on Sunday, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. Highs, for example, in Philadelphia on Sunday afternoon could be in the lower 70s, which is below normal for this time of the year and very, very pleasant for this time of the year. And here's a tropical system we talked about earlier in the video discussion that certainly has a chance to become a named tropical storm in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. The water temperatures are quite warm in this particular part of the Gulf of Mexico and above normal for this time of the year. So that certainly can become a named tropical storm as it slides to the west, likely ending up in eastern Mexico, and likely, I would say, as a named tropical storm. Something we'll monitor here. Continuation of very nice conditions on Monday across the Mid-Atlantic, the Midwest here. Not much activity going on out across the western two-thirds of the nation. Here we go all the way into Tuesday. And again, this is tropical moisture here along the Texas coastline all the way down to eastern Mexico. We'll go all the way out into the middle part of next week. And again, a lot of tropical moisture impacting the Gulf region over the next several days or so. Large high pressure that had its origin in Canada ends up over New England by the time we get to the middle of next week. A very nice stretch of weather coming for New England, Mid-Atlantic, Midwest, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all the way into Wednesday. So here we go, closing in on the climatological peak of the Atlantic Basin tropical season, and certainly there's some activity to monitor over the next several days. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.